Georgia
Yeah, they
Bama.
haven't looked good since Gundy was 40.
We're gonna go to Georgia and Bama. So, I remember I said, actually I said this past week, and talking to a friend of mine, I said, actually it was my boss actually talking about it. I said, yeah, this is the big game of the week. You got Georgia, you got Bama. He asked me who I'm taking, and I said reluctantly, I'm leaning towards Bama right now, but that could change very well. And why can it change? Because weather is going to play a factor. I mean, you've got the hurricane coming in. I know they're going to get some rain down there. I don't know how it's going to affect it, but looking at it on paper, I kind of like Bama just right now. My gut tells me Bama. It could change over the weekend before the game gets here, but I just go back to that Kentucky game, Gio. I mean, I know it was a battle for Georgia and they had a week off. They're coming into this week. It's just, I don't know, man. Is there something you can tell me to give me that slight edge to give to Georgia heading down to Tuscaloosa at Bryant Denny Stadium? Because right now, I'm feeling Georgia's win streak's going to snap against Bama.
Well, look, Georgia's won. I don't know what the record. How many SEC games have won in a row? I mean, conference games were just like 40 or
Yeah.
something. It's
Yeah, it's like 43, isn't it? Something like that.
some crazy number.
2021 or 20, they haven't lost something like 2021 or something crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a phenomenal streak, and look, it's a tough matchup. I mean, they're playing a team that I respect Alabama. They got a lot of athletes. The rain could play a factor. This could be if it does rain, Rudy could slightly favor Georgia and their style of play, at least this season. Georgia's going to want to run the ball with Brian Robinson and Etienne, the brother of Travis Etienne, the one from the Jags. But, man, Georgia's getting some guys back this week. Listen, that Kentucky game, I know a lot of people laughed and said, it's just Kentucky. Kentucky has a very good defense, a lot of athletes, a lot of guys from the portal as well. And Kentucky also plays tough. And, Rudy, they got out of there just alive. I mean, just barely. I mean,
people don't realize that Kentucky's been relevant for a few years. They may not have made a whole lot of noise, but for the past few years, Kentucky's been a tough out. They've been relevant in college football
for several years. And it's one of those things where, sure, it's just a random SEC team, but we saw what South Carolina did to LSU. We saw what Arkansas just did to Auburn. Rudy, Vanderbilt had Missouri on the ropes. And I know I've laughed about Vanderbilt a lot, but I want to give Vanderbilt a lot of credit, Rudy. They've played some tough teams. They beat Virginia Tech. They've had some close ones, and Missouri's a good team. But, man, I'm going to pick Georgia, but I'm going to say this. Georgia has to come out with an edge because what I saw against Kentucky was flat. It was essentially saying, hey, we're Georgia. We're going to just show up. And obviously, you got to give Kentucky a lot of credit too. But, geez, it was not a good look. But I'm going with the Dogs, and it's going to be a hostile environment. It's going to be loud. It's going to be a lot of people drinking there, Derek. So it's going to be a tough environment. So
you guys, you're saying your team's going to get out. You know they're going to have to score in the first half. They've scored 3 touchdowns in the first half, and 2 of those are against Tennessee Tech. So can they shut down Jalen Mills? Can they shut Milrose down and produce offense? That's going to be the key.
The offensive play calling, I don't want to criticize Mike Bobo, which I'm not a fan of. He was here during Mark Richt era, and it was not very good either. So I didn't love some of the play calling. Get the ball down the field. You have these receivers and you have these athletes. Get the ball down the field, attack, don't be scared. And I felt a lot of hesitation against Kentucky, but obviously Kentucky was playing good defense. But Georgia, I believe they can, Derek. But if you only score, did Georgia score 13 points, Rudy, or something like that? You're not
13.
beating Alabama. This isn't 2010. You're not beating Alabama like that. Alabama will eventually score. So they got to step up because this is a tough game. And you got Texas coming down real quick in just a few weeks. So
Saban will be smiling on the sideline. Hey, that's a tough game, man. Hey, Rudy, you remember early in the year, you and I talked about we didn't like Georgia very much.
Yeah.
And Gio, you know, likes them, and they still undefeated, but something tells me Alabama's going to end up running over them, man. I don't think it's going to be a 30-point loss, but I think Alabama's going to be physically stronger than them. I think they're going to be quicker at most of the important positions. I'm not in love with Alabama either, but I think they're going to make a statement against Georgia, and I think it's time for Georgia to suffer their first loss in quite a while, and I'm taking Alabama to win that game by at least 10 points.